I got a question.
What you got?
So let's say, because it's not that far-fetched, the Jets are a slight favorite, -1.5 on DraftKings. So let's say that Houston wins this game.
The Jets are a favorite to beat Houston?
Yeah.
Okay.
Short week.
Money line.
Houston's banged up.
Oh, money line.
I would probably bet the Texans as well, too, which is bad news for the Texans. But if they lose this game and it continues to go the way that it does, and Aaron Rodgers is, a little bit shaky, you guys think he's coming back next year? Because I lean on the side now, as the way this season's gone, that we're looking at the final few games of his career.
I can't see him leaving out this
like
way.
This.
Yeah, I can't see it. It's just, I just think that for all the things that we do, when you compete at a high level, there has to be a certain level of pride and a certain level of just kind of expectation for yourself, and just as an athlete, just as a person in regular life. So when you're as great as he's been in his career, I just don't think that someone like him, and clearly he does a weekly podcast, so it matters to him to put his messaging out there. I just don't think he walks away. Now, what is the relationship between him and the Jets, I think, is a bigger question. How does that all play out? Where do they go from here? But in terms of him walking away from the game, I just can't see, after the type of career he's had and the reasons why he left Green Bay and went to the Jets, I think wanting to accomplish more, be an MVP again or win a Super Bowl, be responsible for the Jets winning a Super Bowl, whatever it may be. I just can't see him walking away from it this way.
Can't be going out like this, right? I mean, it doesn't feel like it's right. And I'm not saying you keep trying to chase that perfect John Elway, sail off into the sunset, go win a Super Bowl. But I would like to think that there's enough grit, enough determination, enough maybe, frustration that leads to like anger, being ticked off about how this season has gone, that he does want to come back. He does want to prove any doubters wrong. He does want to prove to himself he can still do it. To the godchows of the NFL who think he's lost a step. Like, there's that part of it for me as a former player. Now, especially when all these guys, play late into their career. Like, I want it for them, man. Like, how you feel about that, LaVar, but I always think about, there's a country song, I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was.
Yeah.
I want that for them. Like, I want that one season then to be what they hope it's going to be. I know the odds are stacked against you. The probability, that's not going to work out more often than not. But I hope it does. And honestly, I do for Jets fans too. Because I think they've endured a lot. And I don't know that there's been more buildup for a player arriving to a fan base, with the exception of, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. I think the difference is with Rodgers, like when he got there, he was still coming off from really good football. Remember, Manning was coming off a neck injury. So there's a lot of hype in Denver and excitement, but there's a little bit of a little unknown, right? Like when he played that first year, I think people were a little scared too when he was going to take hits, how he'd respond. With Tom Brady, you weren't sure like what version they were going to get because he was towards the end of his career. He's playing into his 40s. And it felt like the Super Bowls that he was a part of with New England maybe were a little further away. For Rodgers, I mean, he was coming off not that long before winning an MVP. So the hype around it and the fact that it was New York and the Jets and the way this fan base has struggled and the playoff drought, all these things, I think led to maybe the most hype we've seen in the NFL for a player going to a team in quite some time. And it's been anything but what was advertised. I think for that reason alone, maybe there's this sense of onus, there's this sense of determination to try to prove anyone who thinks that if he comes back next year, it's not going to be any different than it was this year. Like, I selfishly want that story, that chapter to be written, only because like I want to see the good. Like I want to see it come out on the side where it defeats all odds. And so maybe that's just me, but I hope he comes back. I hope whatever happens tonight has no bearing on that. Like there's a longer plan to this than just saying, I'm going to get to the end of the season and see how I feel. I hope it doesn't come to that.
Yeah, his days of being a top 5 quarterback are over. and now it's just coming to terms with the fact that the reality is that's not who he is anymore. Does this version still is it good enough to win games? And I hope the same thing. I love seeing all-time greats go out more so on their terms as opposed to, Father Time saying that's about it. We'll wrap this up from here. I just wonder, like, do the Jets want to run this thing back? I mean, I'm assuming if this goes south and they don't make the playoffs, they're probably going to have a new coach. Does that coach want to sign up for this? Like, who will that coach be? Like, I just.
Why would you want to sign up for this? You know what I mean? Like, if you're a new coach, I know part of you would say, oh, wow, I get this great roster and I have a Hall of Fame quarterback. But I think it's kind of played out in a way where if you're looking at it right now, it might be safe to say that if I come into this scenario with all factors given, I'm going to have to deal with what Aaron Rodgers wants and what comes along with that. Am I able to do my job the way I need to do my job? If you're a GM or you're a head coach, at the end of the day, like, say you replace the GM, say you replace the head coach, but you're not replacing Aaron Rodgers. I just think that whether it's true, whether it's warranted, whether it's just or not, I think the perception is that this is all about appeasing Aaron Rodgers. And if that's the general feeling within the coaches community, then why would you want to touch that? That could be, for a coach, depending on which, what turn they're on. If it's their first turn, that's a hard one. That's a hard one for your first time out because you're going to spend your first opportunity on taking a chance, hoping that you can go navigate a situation that wasn't navigated by two coaches before you. And then if you're a coach that's already had a job and you're getting your second chance, another chance, are you going to waste your last chance possibly on this scenario? I just think that it's a hard situation to walk into for any coach, moving forward, knowing what you seemingly think the circumstances are that's surrounding this team.